In the picturesque and tranquil suburb of Collinsville, Illinois, an event transpired on August 15th, 2017, that would send ripples of shock through the close-knit community, leaving no resident untouched. This peaceful haven, nestled away from the bustle of city life, was a place where neighbors knew each other by name, where children played freely on the streets, and where the most exciting events were often nothing more than the annual bake sale or the high school football games. The news of a heinous crime, a murder, shattered the peaceful facade, stirring a sense of unease and dread that would linger for years to come. The morning of August 15th began much like any other in Collinsville. The sun rose, casting a warm glow over the well-manicured lawns and picket fences. Residents woke to the familiar sounds of birds chirping and the distant hum of lawnmowers. Children prepared for another day of summer vacation, while adults commuted to work, sipping coffee and listening to the morning news. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the promise of another peaceful day. Little did they know, their world was about to be turned upside down. As the clock struck noon, the serene atmosphere was abruptly disrupted by the jarring sound of sirens. Police cars and ambulances, their lights flashing urgently, sped down the usually quiet Taylor Street. The sudden cacophony drew residents from their homes, their faces etched with concern and curiosity. They gathered in small clusters along the sidewalks, exchanging puzzled glances and whispered speculations. Rumors began to circulate, each one more alarming than the last, but none could prepare them for the grim reality that would soon unfold. The emergency services arrived at a modest, two-story house nestled among the trees. The scene that awaited them was one of profound tragedy. The lifeless body of a young girl lay amidst the tranquil setting, her life cruelly cut short. The sight sent a wave of horror through the first responders, who swiftly cordoned off the area, their faces grim and determined. The news spread like wildfire through the community, leaving a trail of disbelief and anguish in its wake. The tragic tale that emerged would forever change the lives of those who called Collinsville home. James Harper, a native of Collinsville, was a man who once held the promise of a bright future. At 30 years old, he was known throughout the town for his charismatic personality and impressive athletic abilities. In his high school days, he was the star of the football team, his name chanted by adoring crowds as he led the Collinsville Cougars to victory after victory. His dreams of a professional career in sports seemed within reach, and his future appeared destined for greatness. Linda Harper, née Johnson, was a force to be reckoned with in the business world. At just 28 years old, she had already made a name for herself as a successful businesswoman, her sharp intellect and unwavering determination propelling her up the corporate ladder at a prestigious marketing firm in Chicago. Born and raised in a small town much like Collinsville, Linda possessed an unyielding ambition that set her apart from her peers. Her steely resolve and keen business acumen commanded respect and admiration from colleagues and competitors alike. The paths of James and Linda crossed during their senior year at Northwestern University. Linda was pursuing a degree in marketing, her sights set on a successful career in the corporate world. James, meanwhile, was a star athlete on the university's football team, majoring in sports management with dreams of turning his passion into a profession. Their first encounter occurred at a university charity event where Linda, volunteering as an organizer, caught James's eye with her efficient management and captivating presence. Intrigued by her organizational prowess and drawn to her beauty, James struck up a conversation. They quickly discovered a shared love for adventure and travel, their mutual passions sparking an instant connection. Their relationship blossomed rapidly, with James's charm and athleticism complementing Linda's intelligence and drive. They became a power couple on campus, their names synonymous with success and popularity. Together, they attended parties and events, always in the spotlight, their futures seemingly intertwined and destined for greatness. However, the events of August 15th, 2017 would cast a dark shadow over their lives and the lives of those around them. The idyllic facade of Collinsville had been irrevocably shattered, and the once peaceful community would grapple with the aftermath of the tragedy for years to come. The story of James and Linda Harper would serve as a stark reminder that even in the most serene of settings, darkness can lurk, and fate can take a cruel and unexpected turn. In the realm of professional football, James was on the cusp of a promising career, while Linda harbored ambitious plans to ascend the corporate ranks in the marketing sphere. Their future appeared radiant and filled with promise. However, an abrupt shift occurred when James sustained a grave knee injury during his final game of the season. This injury not only terminated his football aspirations, but also burdened him with chronic pain and a profound sense of purposelessness. Throughout his recuperation, Linda remained steadfast by his side, offering unyielding support and affection. Undeterred by this setback, they chose to wed soon after graduation, believing their love could conquer any adversity. Initially, their union was robust. They settled into an expansive and opulent home in Collinsville, Illinois, boasting a generous backyard and a shimmering swimming pool. Linda swiftly ascended the corporate ladder at a distinguished marketing firm in Chicago, securing a lucrative position that enabled them to uphold their extravagant lifestyle. Meanwhile, James floundered, unable to pursue his dream of professional football. He undertook various jobs, none of which endured due to his physical constraints and mounting exasperation. As time wore on, the equilibrium in their relationship began to alter. Linda's career thrived, requiring lengthy hours and frequent travel. Conversely, James grew increasingly morose and resentful. He grappled with his new reality, feeling emasculated by his inability to contribute financially. The once dynamic and adventurous man morphed into a mere specter of his former self, consumed by acrimony and self-commiseration. With Linda often absent for work, James sought refuge in the company of his friends. Their residence, with its alluring pool and spacious backyard, became a frequent gathering spot. James hosted get-togethers, inviting his friends for barbecues and pool parties. These events often involved copious drinking and computer gaming, providing a transient respite from his feelings of inadequacy. The air resonated with laughter and the clinking of glasses, veiling the underlying strain in his life. James's companions were an eclectic mix of local acquaintances, many sharing his enthusiasm for gaming and socializing. They would while away hours by the pool, basking in the sun, indulging in beer, and engaging in animated discussions about sports and life. Inside the house, James would retreat to his gaming setup, losing himself in virtual realms where he could briefly forget his frustrations. The blend of alcohol and gaming offered a fleeting sense of contentment, but did little to confront the core of his discontent. Crafting a facade of prosperity, James reveled in displaying his Dodge Challenger, basking in the admiration it drew as he cruised around town. He regaled inquisitive individuals with tales of his purported triumphs in cryptocurrency trading, projecting an image of financial security and autonomy. Yet his actual involvement in cryptocurrency was scant and erratic, more a pastime than a genuine income source. The luxurious car and the guise of a successful trader were elements of a persona he cultivated to conceal his deep-seated insecurities. The Harper residence, a monument to Linda's diligence and accomplishments, presented a jarring contrast to James's inner turmoil. The expansive, contemporary home boasted all the hallmarks of affluence: meticulously landscaped grounds, an immaculate swimming pool, and tastefully appointed interiors. To outsiders, the Harpers embodied the quintessential American dream, a flawless couple enjoying the fruits of their labor. However, beneath this veneer, their union was crumbling. James's animosity towards Linda intensified daily. He begrudged her success and her role as the principal wage earner, feelings that left him emasculated and inconsequential. As he witnessed Linda's ascent, his self-esteem plummeted, mired in a cycle of purposelessness. This bitterness manifested in emotional detachment and escalating disputes, placing further strain on their relationship. Linda found herself in a precarious situation. She held deep affection for James and yearned to bolster him, but the rigors of her career and the pressure to sustain their lifestyle were overwhelming. Her attempts to reconcile their growing divide were frequently met with antagonism and apathy from James. The emotional weight of being the sole provider and the stress of their disintegrating bond exacted a heavy toll on her. Adjacent to the Harpers resided the Matthews family. Susan Matthews, a 45-year-old single mother, served as a nurse at the local hospital. With over 2 decades of dedicated service, she was renowned for her conscientiousness and empathy. Susan was a pillar of strength, confronting life's challenges with unyielding fortitude. Her commitment to her profession was driven not solely by duty, but also by the necessity to provide for her daughter, Caitlin. Despite her unflagging work ethic, the years of balancing lengthy shifts and single parenthood had left their mark. Susan often appeared fatigued, her eyes reflecting the burden of weariness and the silent acknowledgement of her endured hardships. Nevertheless, beneath her exhausted exterior lay a heart brimming with love and an unyielding resolve to secure a brighter future for her daughter. At 20 years old, Caitlin Matthews presented a striking contrast to her mother in numerous ways. A student at the local college, she radiated vitality and optimism. Her luminous smile and cheerful disposition served as a beacon of light in the otherwise humdrum routine of Susan's life. Caitlin had inherited her mother's tenacity, but also possessed a dreamy, idealistic spirit. Her trusting and open-hearted nature made her beloved among her peers, yet also left her vulnerable. The Matthews family resided in a modest, well-maintained home that Susan had managed to retain through sheer resolve and diligence. Though smaller than the Harpers' lavish residence, their house was filled with warmth and love. Susan had created a sanctuary for Caitlin, a place where they could both find refuge amidst life's trials. Their bond was unbreakable, tempered by shared hardships and a mutual comprehension of their situation. Despite their financial limitations, Susan ensured that Caitlin had every opportunity to flourish. She championed her daughter's education and encouraged her to harbor grand aspirations, hoping that Caitlin would accomplish all that she herself had once dreamed of. In turn, Caitlin held deep admiration for her mother and was driven by Susan's sacrifices. She was resolved to make her mother proud and often conveyed her gratitude through small acts of kindness, such as preparing dinner after Susan's lengthy shifts or surprising her with heartfelt notes of appreciation. Their close-knit relationship, however, was not devoid of challenges. Susan's taxing job often left her physically and emotionally depleted, allowing little time for leisure or personal endeavors. Caitlin, though understanding and patient, occasionally felt the void left by her mother's absence. Yet they both traversed these obstacles with grace and empathy, always prioritizing each other's well-being. Living adjacent to the Harpers, Susan and Caitlin were cognizant of their neighbors' divergent lifestyle. The Matthews' simple, industrious life stood in stark contrast to the Harpers' ostensible affluence and extravagance. Susan, while amiable, maintained a respectful distance, focusing on her duties and eschewing unnecessary interactions. Caitlin, however, was more gregarious, frequently exchanging pleasantries with the Harpers and other neighbors. It was a radiant, sunny day in July. The sky was a resplendent blue, dotted with a few wispy clouds drifting languidly across it. The sun beamed down, casting a warm, golden glow over the suburban neighborhood. Birds chirped merrily in the trees, and the scent of blooming flowers permeated the air. It was one of those quintessential summer days that seemed to beckon relaxation and enjoyment. Linda's business trip to Chicago left James to his own devices. James Harper, as was his custom, lazed by the pool with two companions. Their laughter and conversation filled the air as they basked in the sun, beers in hand. Clad in swim trunks and a loose tank top, James was in his element, relishing the lazy afternoon. The sounds of splashing water and lively chatter created a tranquil ambiance. Next door, Caitlin Matthews tended to her mother's garden, watering the vibrant blooms in their backyard. She wore a simple sundress, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, humming a tune as she moved from plant to plant. Her mother, Susan, was at work, leaving Caitlin to care for the house. Noticing Caitlin over the fence, James decided it was time for a proper introduction. He had seen her before, but they had never truly spoken. Intrigued, he felt a sudden urge to know her better. Setting his beer down, he approached the fence and called out to her. "Hey, Caitlin, right?" James said with a warm smile. "Why not take a break and join us by the pool? We've got plenty of cold beer and good company." Caitlin looked up, startled. She hadn't expected James to speak to her, let alone invite her over. Glancing at the two men by the pool, she felt a twinge of hesitation. "Oh, thanks, but I should probably finish up here," she replied, trying to hide her nervousness. James wasn't one to surrender easily. "Come on, it's a gorgeous day. Just for a couple of hours, you deserve a break too," he persuaded, his tone inviting. Caitlin bit her lip, wavering between her initial reluctance and growing curiosity. Her mother was at work, and she had no pressing tasks. Perhaps a little relaxation wouldn't hurt. She finally agreed, "All right, just for a little while," setting the watering can aside. James's face brightened with a victorious smile. "Great, come on over," he said, opening the gate between their yards. Caitlin walked over, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. James introduced her to his friends, who welcomed her with friendly smiles. They handed her a cold beer, and soon she found herself sitting by the pool, chatting and laughing with them. The atmosphere was relaxed and inviting, and Caitlin began to feel more at ease. James observed Caitlin with newfound interest. There was something about her that captivated him, her genuineness and kindness, qualities seemingly rare in his world. As the afternoon wore on, they discussed various topics, her studies, his interests, and the neighborhood. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and James felt a connection forming. Caitlin, too, found herself drawn to James. He was charming and attentive, making her feel special in a way she hadn't experienced before. Their bond deepened, and the afternoon passed in a haze of laughter and shared stories, marking the beginning of an unexpected friendship. A burgeoning connection with James enveloped Caitlin as they exchanged tales and laughter. This unforeseen encounter sparked a friendship that would soon blossom into something more profound. From that day forward, James began inviting Caitlin over more often, whenever his friends congregated by the pool. He ensured she was always included. What started as informal gatherings gradually became a routine. Caitlin found herself anticipating these moments, relishing the fellowship and sense of belonging she felt with James and his companions. 2 weeks after their first meeting, on a balmy Friday evening, they were once again unwinding by the pool. The setting sun bathed the water in a golden glow as the group's spirits soared with laughter and clinking beer bottles. As the night cooled, James proposed they retreat indoors. "Hey, Caitlin," he said, capturing her attention. "Care to join me for some video games in the basement? It'll be a blast." Caitlin paused briefly, then agreed. "Sure, why not?" she responded, enticed by the prospect. Leaving his friends poolside, James guided Caitlin into the house and down to the basement. The cool interior offered respite from the summer heat. The expansive, well-appointed basement boasted a large TV and numerous gaming consoles. Caitlin settled onto the couch while James prepared the game. Soon the room echoed with their laughter and playful exchanges. The game provided a perfect diversion, allowing them to unwind and savor each other's company. As they played, their bond intensified, fueled by shared delight. After some time, a pause in their conversation ensued. Caitlin glanced at James, noting how his gaze rested on her. The atmosphere felt electric, charged with unvoiced tension. Her heart raced, a blend of nervousness and exhilaration pulsing through her. James took a deep breath, then leaned closer. "Caitlin," he whispered, his voice gentle and tentative. I've been wanting to do this for some time." Before Caitlin could utter a response, James tenderly pressed his lips to hers. Initially hesitant, the kiss was a blend of uncertainty and yearning. Caitlin's surprise swiftly transformed into a surge of emotions, a spark of passion intertwined with vulnerability. Their kiss deepened, intensifying as they both yielded to the moment. When they finally parted, breathless and flushed, Caitlin gazed into James's eyes, mirroring her own confusion and desire. The kiss had stirred something within her, a mix of exhilaration and a twinge of guilt and uncertainty. James, too, wrestled with his feelings. He was drawn to Caitlin powerfully, but also felt a sense of inner turmoil. He understood the risks, yet the connection between them was undeniable. This kiss had brought them closer, marking the onset of a complex and stormy relationship. That moment in the basement was a harbinger of what lay ahead. From then on, their interactions brimmed with newfound intensity. James continued to invite Caitlin over, their time together becoming more frequent and intimate. What had begun as a simple friendship was now evolving into something profound, replete with passion and challenges. The bond between James and Caitlin flourished rapidly, taking on a life of its own. What started as an innocent friendship swiftly morphed into a clandestine and passionate affair. The thrill of their secret encounters added an exhilarating element neither had experienced before. They grew adept at finding stolen moments, always cautious to keep their burgeoning relationship concealed from prying eyes. For James, this affair offered a much-needed respite from the tedium and frustrations of his daily life. His marriage to Linda had long lost its luster, and the pressures of his injury and unemployment had eroded his self-esteem. Caitlin's youthful enthusiasm and genuine affection breathed new life into him, making him feel desired and alive once more. He eagerly anticipated their secret rendezvous, the excitement fueling a renewed sense of purpose. Caitlin, meanwhile, felt an intense connection with James, unlike anything she had known before. He made her feel cherished and significant, filling a void left by her father's passing and her mother's constant absence due to work. Drawn to James's confidence and charm, she reveled in the attention he bestowed upon her. Their relationship provided her with a sense of belonging and importance, something she had longed for deeply. As their secret affair unfolded, both James and Caitlin found solace and exhilaration in each other's company. Each stolen moment was a sanctuary from their respective struggles, a place where they could be truly seen and understood. Yet amidst the passion and excitement, the shadows of guilt and uncertainty lingered, hinting at the complexities that lay ahead. Whenever opportunity allowed, they convened, frequently transforming the Harper residence into their clandestine meeting ground when Linda was away on business or working late. The secluded pool area and expansive basement became havens where they could be united without fear of intrusion. These secret rendezvous were charged with intense emotions as they navigated the intricacies of their forbidden love. Their time together was filled with laughter, hushed conversations, and tender moments that fortified their bond. They shared hopes and dreams, fears and insecurities, forging a deep emotional connection that transcended the physical. James often confided in Caitlin about his struggles and frustrations, and she listened with empathy and understanding, offering the support he yearned for. In return, James provided Caitlin with a sense of security and admiration, making her feel valued and cherished. Their physical relationship grew more ardent and intimate with each encounter as they explored their desires and fantasies, finding solace and pleasure in each other's embrace. The secrecy of their affair only intensified their connection. Every stolen kiss and touch carried the thrill of potential discovery, adding an exhilarating edge to their time together. Yet amidst the passion and excitement, both James and Caitlin recognized the fragile nature of their relationship. They understood that their affair was built on a foundation of secrecy and deception, and that their actions could inflict immense pain and damage if exposed. However, the intensity of their feelings often eclipsed these concerns, as they became increasingly enthralled by the rush of being together. As weeks turned into months, their bond deepened, and they found themselves increasingly intertwined. They began to share more personal details, cultivating an intimacy that extended beyond their physical connection. Caitlin confided in James about her college struggles and future aspirations, while James opened up about his marital frustrations and his yearning for a more fulfilling life. These conversations drew them closer, forging a connection that felt indestructible. James started making subtle adjustments to his life to accommodate his relationship with Caitlin. He created opportunities to see her, whether by running errands near her college or arranging to be home when she was available. Caitlin, too, found herself making adjustments, carefully balancing her studies and responsibilities with her desire to be with James. They became adept at maintaining their double lives, always meticulous in keeping up appearances and avoiding suspicion. Their secret world was a delicate dance of stolen moments and shared confidences, a sanctuary where they could escape the realities of their lives. Yet even as their bond grew stronger, the specter of discovery loomed, casting a shadow of uncertainty over their forbidden love. Their liaison also profoundly affected their emotional states. For James, the affair was a much-needed boost to his confidence and self-esteem. He felt revitalized and inspired, as if granted a second chance at happiness. Caitlin, meanwhile, experienced a sense of contentment and joy she had never known before. Their time together was a source of solace and excitement, helping them navigate the trials and tribulations of their daily lives. Despite their vigilance, the strain of keeping their secret began to weigh heavily. The constant need for secrecy and the fear of exposure created an underlying tension that was hard to dismiss. Both James and Caitlin grew more cautious, always alert for signs of suspicion from those around them. They understood that their affair could not remain hidden indefinitely, but neither was willing to relinquish the connection they had forged. As their relationship deepened, the emotional stakes escalated. They found themselves envisioning a future together, imagining a life where they could openly express their love without fear of judgment or repercussions. These daydreams offered a temporary respite from the reality of their situation, allowing them to indulge in the possibility of a different existence. However, the harsh truth of their circumstances hung over them, a constant reminder of the potential fallout of their actions. Their relationship also began to influence their interactions with others. James struggled to maintain his composure around Linda, the guilt of his infidelity gnawing at his conscience. He became more distant and irritable, often snapping in frustration. Caitlin, too, found it challenging to conceal her feelings, finding it difficult to concentrate on her studies and maintain her relationships with friends and family. One evening, Linda returned from a business trip earlier than anticipated, hoping to surprise James. She had planned this spontaneous gesture to rekindle some passion in their strained marriage. As she quietly entered the house, Linda noticed the unusual silence, expecting to find James in his usual spot by the pool or in the living room. Puzzled, her attention was drawn to the dim light emanating from the master bedroom upstairs. Curiosity mixed with excitement as Linda ascended the stairs, careful not to make a sound. Her heart pounded with anticipation of the surprise she was about to spring on her husband. However, as she reached the doorway of the master bedroom, she was confronted with a sight that shattered her world. There in their marital bed were James and Caitlin, locked in an intimate embrace. Linda's mind raced as she tried to process the scene before her. The initial shock quickly gave way to a blinding rage fueled by betrayal and heartache. She lunged at Caitlin, screaming and flailing wildly. Her sudden assault caught both James and Caitlin off guard. James attempted to restrain Linda, shouting for her to stop, but his efforts were in vain. The room echoed with Linda's anguished cries and the chaotic scuffle that ensued. The once peaceful sanctuary of their home was now a battleground of raw emotions and shattered trust. The repercussions of their secret affair had abruptly and violently surfaced, leaving all parties involved to grapple with the devastating aftermath. Caitlin, panic-stricken and disoriented, managed to wrench free from Linda's grasp. Clutching her clothes tightly, she dashed from the bedroom, desperate for escape. Linda, propelled by a mix of rage and heartache, pursued her down the hallway. As Caitlin reached the staircase, Linda caught up and with a forceful shove, sent Caitlin plummeting down the stairs. Caitlin's body tumbled and twisted uncontrollably, finally landing with a sickening thud on the cold granite floor below. James watched in horror as Caitlin lay motionless at the foot of the stairs. He rushed to her side, his heart plummeting as he took in the severity of her injuries. Her neck was at an unnatural angle, and a pool of blood formed beneath her head. It was evident that she had not survived the fall. Overwhelmed with guilt and disbelief, James scrambled to his feet and dialed 911, his voice trembling as he relayed the situation to the dispatcher. Within minutes, the air filled with the wail of sirens as police and paramedics descended upon the Harper residence. The officers entered the house to find a scene of chaos. James was kneeling beside Caitlin's lifeless body, tears streaming down his face. Linda, in a state of shock, sat on the floor at the top of the stairs, her hands stained with Caitlin's blood, staring blankly ahead. The officers quickly assessed the situation, while paramedics confirmed that Caitlin had succumbed to her injuries. The police then turned their attention to Linda and James. Linda was arrested on the spot, handcuffed, and led away, still in a daze. James, visibly shaken, was questioned by the officers. He recounted the events, explaining how Linda had attacked Caitlin in a fit of rage, ultimately causing her fatal fall. News of Caitlin's death spread rapidly. Susan Matthews, Caitlin's mother, was at work when she received the devastating call. Her colleagues tried to console her as she broke down in tears, the reality of her daughter's death hitting her like a tidal wave. The heartbreak and anguish were palpable as Susan struggled to grasp the loss of her beloved daughter. Back at the Harper residence, the police conducted a meticulous investigation. They documented the scene, taking photographs and collecting evidence. The once tranquil and elegant home was now a crime scene, marred by the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. The stark contrast between the former serenity and the current chaos underscored the devastating impact of the events that had transpired. As the investigation continued, the weight of the tragedy hung heavy in the air, a grim reminder of the lives forever altered by the day's harrowing events. The trial evolved into a media spectacle, meticulously covered by local outlets. Journalists and camera crews congregated outside the courthouse, eager to capture every nuance of the case that had stunned the community. Inside the courtroom, emotions surged as the grim particulars of that fateful day were recounted. Linda's defense centered around her claim of temporary insanity, asserting that she had acted in a moment of uncontrollable rage upon discovering her husband's infidelity. Her lawyers argued that the shock and betrayal had overwhelmed her, leading to her violent outburst. Linda herself appeared fragile and remorseful, her once composed demeanor shattered by the gravity of her actions. Despite the emotional testimonies and pleas for leniency, the prosecution presented a starkly different narrative. They emphasized the premeditated nature of Linda's attack, highlighting her pursuit of Caitlin and the fatal push down the stairs. James's testimony against Linda proved pivotal as he recounted the horrific events and the deliberate nature of her actions. The jury was shown graphic evidence, including photographs and witness accounts, leaving little room for doubt. After weeks of intense deliberation, the jury found Linda guilty of first-degree murder under Illinois state law. The judge, acknowledging the severity of the crime, sentenced her to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, as mandated by state statutes for premeditated murder. Linda's face was a mask of despair as the verdict was read, her life irrevocably altered by a moment of violent rage. James, grappling with his own guilt and grief, was left to pick up the shattered remnants of their lives. He inherited his wife's substantial estate, including their lavish home and assets. However, the material wealth offered scant comfort. Haunted by memories of Caitlin and the knowledge that his actions had led to such a tragic end, James found himself isolated and consumed by regret. The life he had once known was gone, leaving him to confront a future marred by loneliness and sorrow. Witnessing the case of Linda Harper unfold was a chilling experience. Seeing her life spiral into violence and culminate in such a brutal act was shocking. Her vicious attack on Caitlin Matthews, fueled by rage over the affair with her husband James, resulted in a conviction for first-degree murder. The courtroom testimonies and evidence left no doubt about her guilt. Linda's life sentence without parole felt just, yet the tragedy left an indelible mark on all involved. James's guilt and isolation, despite inheriting the estate, underscored the profound scars left by this devastating series of events. The trial served as a stark reminder of the destructive power of jealousy and betrayal, and the irreparable damage they can inflict on lives and communities.